Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Breber, and alongside me is Logan Canton. And oh my goodness, what an outcome we just witnessed. The Minnesota Timberwolves go straight up. How would Anthony Edwards put it, Logan? How would he put that performance against OKC? Belt ass. I was trying to set you up to say belt ass.
I'm just thinking about my baby boy Anthony Edwards right now.
Logan told me before we started recording he's going to glaze Anthony Edwards harder than anybody has ever glazed before. This is a 40-something point differential right now. We don't know what the final score is, but it was a 40-point game at the end of three quarters. Logan, please glaze away. What do you take away from this performance from Ant and the Timberwolves, having lost games 1 and 2 convincingly, to then come back and deliver an absolute beatdown of this magnitude?
All right, look, I'm not talking about the series right now. I'm talking about Ant. It's a matter of when, not if, Anthony Edwards is going to be the best guard in basketball, man. I mean, oh my gosh, dude. Anthony Edwards gives me that special tingly feeling when I watch him play basketball. 39-6 in this game in 29 minutes. Like, the things that Anthony Edwards does on the basketball court, I'm so convinced he could be the best player in the world. I think he could be better than Wemby, but I know he's going to be the best guard on the planet. The stuff he does early in this game, because this game is over very early, and I'm very disappointed in the fight that we got from OKC in this game, but Ant put the kids to bed really early in this one. The ease at which he is stepping into these three-point shots off of screens, and he's going at both angles from it. Like, he can kill you from anywhere. He's coming off of screens and hitting threes too, not just on the ball. And that three-point leap is what gives Ant that special scoring ceiling. It's crazy to combine that level of three-point shooting that we saw from him this year with his athletic tools and his explosiveness. He shot 39% from deep with 10 threes a game. I say this stat all the time. Only Dame, Clay, and Steph have ever done that. And so you're getting elite jump shooting. And he's also was great in the mid-range too. He has been, he was in this game as well, like the pull-up shooting. I think he's going to be really good there one day too. He's great at the pull-up three-point shooting and three-point shooting in general, but I think he's going to get better as a mid-range shooter, and you've seen a little bit of that. But he can get to the rim and blow by anybody. You've got to have such a special defender on him to slow him down. And what's really impressive to me, Carson, about him getting to the rim specifically in this series is the difficulty of the paints he's navigating and how many bodies he's going through to finish. Like, this is the most difficult defensive matchup that Ant could be dealing with, hypothetically. This is a historically great defense, and Ant shredded him. I mean, like, Ant continues to give us glimpses every single season, Carson, and one of these seasons, Ant is going to have all of it together. It's like when Thanos got all the rings. He's getting them, right? Like, he's got the rim pressure and the explosiveness and the athleticism. He's always had that. Now he added the three-point shooting. He's getting the playmaking. Then when he gets the mid-range shooting, boom! He's going to evaporate the NBA. Like, dude, I can't wait, man. I can't wait. I love Anthony Edwards, and I think he's going to be the best guard on the planet one day. This was a special Anthony Edwards game. Shout out to the Timberwolves for shooting extremely well from behind the arc, too. I thought this was a hell of a game from the supporting cast and the defense as well. Shout out Terrence Shannon Jr., but I got to start with my baby boy, man. Anthony Edwards should have put the league on notice tonight, man. If you didn't know, now you know.
I mean, that was a phenomenal glaze there, a worthy glaze for an excellent performance by Ant. I do think that collectively Minnesota played a perfect basketball game tonight, and I don't think that that's an exaggeration, but I do think a lot of it started with Ant, and specifically, like, a couple of the tone-setting plays from him early in this game are forcing turnovers or being the first guy to a loose ball, and then he gets a couple of transition dunks in the first quarter. That was really big because Minnesota completely dominated the turnover margin in this game. They dominated the points off turnovers. We've talked about this plenty of times, but OKC is the best team that we've ever seen on record in terms of dominating the turnover margin themselves. And so Minnesota just fully reversed that in this game, and I thought that that was a huge component of it. But Ant was fantastic, man. He's getting the transition stuff early, just walked into a number of really easy pull-up threes versus drop. I'm pretty baffled by how long OKC has stuck with that drop coverage against Ant. Like, I think that they need to get out of it. I think that they need to start blitzing him, or they need to start consistently playing with the big up at the level, like with how bad Rudy has been off the roll, with how much they've been able to fluster him with Chet as the low man. Like anytime they tag him, he doesn't know what he's doing. And so then you at least either force Ant to get the ball to Rudy, and then Rudy has really, really struggled to make a play, or you force Ant to make a skip pass. Like you just make it a lot harder on him than him stepping into a pull-up three, when overall this year, Anthony Edwards, as great a downhill guard and athlete as he has been most lethal as a scorer from beyond the arc. So to just give him those shots, and he wasn't making them in games 1 and 2, but they're still really good looks. Now in this game, he's making them like their warm-up jumpers, and they kept giving them to him. So I really couldn't understand that, but he was punishing them. He did have a couple of great takes to the rim. I mean, the one where he beats the double and then still is able to finish that reverse, that was sexual stuff from him. And if you look at how he adjusted in the second half of game 2, I mean, just his insistence upon getting downhill was really, really impressive. And we didn't see as much of it tonight. He was doing it more with the jump shooting, but game 1, the guy only attempted 1 shot in the paint. So we've seen him increasingly get more of that paint offense, which is really big in these last couple games. And then you mentioned the mid-range, dude. He goes 3 of 3 from mid-range in this game. Normally, if you're a defense, like you are hoping that Ant takes that mid-range jumper every time down the floor. He was a 30-something% mid-range shooter this regular season. Coming into this series, he was 1 of 14 from mid-range in the playoffs. He had been terrible. He is 7 of 12 from mid-range in this series. So he was just feeling it in every possible way. And then he was also making all the right decisions as a playmaker and creating a bunch of drive and kick threes for his teammates. And Julius Randle was also great. So the stars for Minnesota were fantastic offensively. This was a massive reversal for Randle after he had like an F- kind of performance in game 2 and was just totally dominated by that OKC defense. He comes out in this one and is extremely decisive attacking in single coverage. And he got a couple of favorable matchups where he had smaller guys on him. If it was Cason Wallace, if it was Isaiah Joe, and he bullied them and he made them pay. He also just came out of the gates and made a couple of like tough fadeaways over Lou Dort and J-Dub to set the tone early in this one. But there was also a lot more physical driving from the perimeter from Julius Randle, as opposed to him just straight up trying to post up or trying to get deep post position. That's where we saw OKC in game 2 make it so extremely difficult for him to even get the ball. They're fronting him, and then they're overthrowing these entry passes, and somebody is coming in to make a play on the backside with the double, and they're turning that into offense for OKC, taking the ball away. It was a very smart, decisive approach from Randle, limiting those opportunities for OKC to force turnovers. And then I also thought that he was making the right decisions, and everybody around them just shot the living shit out of the ball, dude. I mean, through 3 quarters, Minnesota was shooting 52% from deep, which is obviously ridiculous. It's a magnet ball performance, but they're getting good shots. And in games 1 and 2, like the corner threes were there. OKC has been willing to concede those looks to aggressively help on Randle and Ant, and the spot up shooting just wasn't very good for Minnesota in those first 2 games. It was a lot better in this one, but it's not just the straight up spot up shooting. Like Nas, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jaden McDaniels, all those guys were lights out as 3-point shooters in this one, but Nas and Na both have several phenomenal takes where they're attacking closeouts and they're getting into the lane and they're hitting floaters, or they're getting all the way to the rim. So that's why I say that this was actually a perfect game, because the stars were phenomenal as scorers and they made the right decisions. The shooting around them was out of this world, but then also the driving and the closeout attacking of the supporting cast was great. I thought the collective ball movement was great. And we haven't even talked about the defense, which I think is maybe the most important part of this performance, because overall it's Minnesota's offense that like puts up numbers that you just kind of can't believe against an OKC defense that has the best relative defensive rating coming into this game that we've seen in the playoffs since the 60s Celtics. I mean, they've just been throwing people off their game at a level that we haven't seen in decades and decades. So to just feast like Minnesota did offensively is wildly impressive. But again, I thought in so many ways they set the tone defensively in that first quarter, and that's really where they pulled apart. That's where I was most impressed with them early in this game, when this was like actually a competitive basketball game, because they just opened things up with the 3-point shooting and then totally pulled away. But defensively is where they started dominating this one.
Yeah. Before we get on to the defense, there's a couple things I wanted to add about the offense. Sure. I mean, one, they shot so poorly. I think you have to continue to trust the shooters here because they're all great shooters. If it's DiVincenzo, if it's Naz Reid, you just trust your bench to make shots. Like, you're going to keep feeding those guys. And in the majority of lineups, especially ones without Gobert too, Ant and Randle are so good at getting downhill pressure that they can manufacture a lot of looks for them. So I think you keep feeding those guys. But specifically, Carson, I thought what you touched on the end there about the offense was huge to me. And I don't know if it was because of the margin that Minnesota was playing so carefree, but they played really patient and controlled. And, like, I just felt Nas and Alexander Walker, you're talking about them working to these shots. Like, I just saw a team that was way more comfortable tonight, and they worked the rock, and I don't know, they looked like genuinely flustered and sped up, and they're out of sync. Tonight, they looked way more controlled. And again, I don't know how much credit to give them for that because they had already built themselves such a big cushion in the first quarter. I mean, it was 34-14 after the first, but yeah. I did think that was a big component too. But the defense was massive. I thought bringing Gobert up to the level was really, really important. And just not having him in such of a deep drop consistently.
Right. Not all the way at the level, but playing in a higher drop.
Yeah. And I thought that was the biggest adjustment. And honestly, Oklahoma City, a big thing that you have to reference with this, I do think the offense is interrelated with the defense, though. Oklahoma City is a team that turns a lot of defense into offense by not giving them those opportunities. I mean, you're limiting a huge component of this team. Like, they can't go on runs. They can't get into defensive rhythm. So I did think that was big for Minnesota, too, just in general, that, you know, they didn't let them just stack like that. Like, they controlled from the tip, and I thought that was
Absolutely.
huge.
Yeah, I really did think that they dominated this game first and foremost on the defensive end. The first quarter, they were just outstanding there. And it felt like we were watching last year's Wolves at their absolute best. Like, that was a defense that had some of those, oh my God, performances, like OKC-esque. They did it in a different way, but it's just like, okay, the Phoenix Suns, this offense with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, they can't dribble the ball. Yeah.
Who do you think defended the Denver Nuggets better, the Wolves last year or OKC this year?
OKC this year, I would say. It's reasonably close, but OKC held them to like a 103 offensive rating. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. If you look at
but you're referencing
Jokic's
some of those,
production last series, he was better. But yes, well, there were a couple of those games, right? Game 2 last year was just an absolute bludgeoning against Denver. Game 6 was one like this where they just come out and it's like, all right, they're just taking the ball from you. You can't dribble against them. And then they get things going offensively and you look up and they're up 30 and then they build it to 40. Like, that's what last year's Wolves defense was capable of doing in a few spots in the postseason. And their defense has still been great this year, but we haven't had a performance like that. This was that. This was just a holy shit, man. They are bringing a special level of intensity. They are bringing a special level of pressure. But with SGA, actually, what I liked is that they weren't bringing as much ball pressure because in games 1 and 2, they were picking him up so far out. And this is the shiftiest, one of the quickest guards in basketball. Like, he's going to consistently get past you if you're picking him up well past the three-point line. What you should be doing is basically trying to force him to settle for more of those pull-up threes, giving him a little bit more cushion, not to where he can get deep into the mid-range, but again, where you want him taking some of those pull-up threes. And that's what they were doing in this one. And then, as you said, once he actually was navigating a ball screen inside the three-point line, that's when Rudy was coming up a little bit higher. And Shai and Jada both had just been getting to extremely easy mid-range shots. If you look at game 2, they're snaking pick and roll, and Rudy's in too deep a drop, and those shots for them are like layups. I mean, especially for Shai, that is such an extremely comfortable shot. You see Rudy just coming up a little bit higher, forces Shai to really hesitate on several occasions. And there were actually a couple of shots that I thought he still could have put up where he had just enough space to get a shot up over Rudy, but that's the Rudy Gobert effect, man. He's a special kind of deterrent, and he was really making Shai question his decisions and question his ability to get off those shots. And then versus everybody else, they were picking up higher. They were pressuring the shit out of the ball. They were attacking the ball. I mean, there's a number of telling possessions early in this game. There's one where J-Dub just sort of casually throws a pass to Ihart, who's like 35 feet away from the basket, and Gobert is up on him, and he just strips him, and then they're going the other way. Like, that was something that we haven't seen from Minnesota up to this point in this series. And then also just their energy was better. They were quicker to the 50-50 balls. They were absolutely dominant on the glass in this game, but specifically that ability to turn defense into offense by forcing the turnovers. is just completely game changing. When you're going up against a team that has a historic turnover margin and you come in and convincingly win that battle in this game, and it ends up not looking as impressive because, there's so much garbage time in this game. But early on, I mean, Minnesota was truly dominating in that margin. They were dominating in the physicality. I mean, literally, this is what OKC has been doing to teams, right? They come out, they're physical as hell, they're active as hell, they're aggressive as hell, they smack you in the mouth and they pull away. And Minnesota did exactly that to OKC in this one, and they just were not prepared for it. I really thought the job they did on Shai was phenomenal, man. I also thought that they loaded up on him a lot more too, which was a very good adjustment in my opinion, because they were way too willing to let him play one-on-one. So it's not just they're taking away those opportunities for him to get blow-bys by picking him up too high. It was also loading up on him more, forcing him to make more decisions as a playmaker. I thought he made some dangerous and reckless passes. They strip him once when they blitz him with Rudy, and he didn't look super comfortable stepping into that pull-up three versus drop when it was there. I mean, they just go under a number of screens in this game, so he has to be willing to take and make that shot. He was great from deep down the stretch of the regular season. He has not consistently had that going in these playoffs. He ends up making a couple in this one, but that shot is going to be really, really important for him going forward in this series, because these are the coverages that he's going to be seeing. These are the coverages he should have been seeing from the start. But Minnesota made the adjustment probably too late, in my opinion, because you let yourself go down 2-0 to the Thunder. But this is the way to defend Shai going forward.
I agree, and that's exactly why I have a little bit of confidence in Minnesota pushing this thing to 6 or 7. Like, I think that they're going to get I would be shocked if Minnesota didn't get one more with the caliber that I know Ant can play at, that they can shoot at, and at the level this defense can play at. I still think the Thunder are better. I would still take them to win this series. Like you said, I think it may be a case of too little too late, but I love the adjustments they made. And again, I think that this is something that is replicable. Now the ball is in OKC's court to answer. OKC's court to answer. I will say, I am a little bit disappointed in OKC and just I don't know. When you're down that much, it is hard to come back. I am disappointed that they just kind of let Minnesota have the game. Like, it just kind of felt like they gave up and they threw in the towel a little bit, which, like, a lot of things didn't go well for them in this game. All their stars struggled. Nobody could shoot from behind the arc. Like, Minnesota brought it to them, but I just was disappointed that they didn't have an answer, man, that they fell apart that quick in this game. But I think Minnesota can replicate this formula. I think they can win another game or two, could push this to 7. But right now, I think I'd still go OKC in 6.
I just think OKC was not prepared for this. I don't think they were prepared for this level of physicality, this level of intensity. And that's where I think, again, you get the offense being so out of sync early. The encouraging thing for OKC is that their offense was really fine after the first quarter. They put up 27 points in the second, 29 in the third. I guess they put up 31 in the fourth. Looks like AJ Mitchell and Dylan Jones went off. I don't know. We weren't even watching by that point. But I did think that they settled in a bit more. I thought that Shai got a little bit more comfortable. But the really big thing for OKC is the shooting around him, man. It has to be there, because now Minnesota is playing a coverage that is going to force Shai to be more of a playmaker, which literally every team should always do. I don't know why they let him be so comfortable as a scorer in the first 2 games. And that's going to put pressure not just on him to make the reads, but on the guys around him to knock down the outside shots. And if there's been one questionable aspect of OKC's basketball team in this run, it's been their outside shooting. They're 32% from deep overall. They've been one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in these playoffs, and they were one of the best teams from deep in the regular season. But this is not a small sample size. We're talking about now 15 games of them struggling as a 3-point shooting team. So I think that Minnesota is absolutely right to put that pressure on the supporting cast to make shots. Those guys have to step up, and they have to be better as shooters. Really, really impressive from Minnesota, man. I got to say, shout out Terrence Shannon Jr., dude. He comes in and he just balls the hell out in this game. He's setting the tone with some defensive plays. He's getting out in transition. He was just fantastic. So, wow, I'm looking at some of the stats from this game after we checked out. This is hilarious. Leonard Miller went 5 for 6. Luka Garza went 3 for 3. Everybody was getting in there and putting some shots up.
Dude, I mean, I love Terrence Shannon Jr. as a prospect. I thought it was a huge get for Minnesota, like value-wise, where they got him, because he was such an experienced player, great athlete, great instincts. Normally when you're drafting those year 4, year 5 guys, you can expect them to immediately come in and contribute just because they've played high level basketball for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Like they quite literally just have more experience. And I mean, he's like the Energizer Bunny, man. He just comes in and gives you juice. Like I love his motor, and he plays hard. I love the role players that you see step in there, and I think Shannon Jr. is a much better player than this guy, but it like Quinones, not Quinones, Guy Santos for the
Mm-hmm.
Warriors when he comes in there, and the energy that he plays with. I think Shannon's a better player, and I think he's going to be a better player. Like I think this guy
Yeah.
is an impactful role player in this league. I think on another team he may already be getting more minutes. Like Minnesota's just got a really great rotation. So
Yeah.
I think the same Leonard Miller too. I think he could be good, but he's young. I'm much higher on Shannon as like a contributing asset now, but he came in and he gave them huge minutes
Mm-hmm.
defensively in transition, getting to the line and just continuing to be aggressive. He hits a couple of shots in the mid range that they just conceded to him.
Yeah.
A pull up mid range jumper and an and one floater. Like I was super impressed with in a big stage, man, a big moment too, a playoff game in vital minutes. Super impressive stuff, man. I'm glad to see him get some burn.
Absolute baller performance from him, and just a truly incredible response from Minnesota. I mean, you can't overstate how impressive this is. I definitely still felt that they were going to get a game in this series, but after game 2, I said OKC's way better. I think that this series is over. I do still very strongly believe that OKC is going to win this series. I don't think that anybody on the planet can beat them in 4 out of 5. I just think that that's too much of an uphill battle, and I think there's a lot of stuff that will balance itself out after this game, but to get dogged in game 1, to get destroyed in that third quarter of game 2 and end up losing that game convincingly, and then to come out on your home court and be the better team in every single phase. Nobody's done this to OKC, man. When Denver beat OKC in these playoffs, and they did it 3 times, which was very, very impressive, every single one was down to the wire. OKC has been the team that has destroyed the opponent. The closest anybody got to doing this to OKC was Memphis in a game they lost, man. It was Memphis going up 29 in the first half, and they lost the game because OKC was just that great in the second half. So to not just come out dominant, but continue to build that lead and to sustain that lead and to be so great on both sides of the ball, can't really say enough good stuff about Minnesota for this performance. If you're OKC, how are you now responding to this? How do you come out and make sure that you're right in game 4 and you're able to get things back on track?
I mean, honestly, the way that they're playing SGA, I would do a modified version of that to Ant. And specifically, I would try to play off of specific guys. I would play more off of Gobert. I would almost leave him be. Maybe,
Mm-hmm.
Carson, if they're going to keep running a lot of Gobert screens where it's really hard to get around him, I might just put a smaller defender on Gobert from the outset so you could just switch it immediately,
Yeah.
and maybe even just outright double Ant and let your big guy rotate out of the corner. Like I'm selling out on Anthony Edwards. I am not letting him comfortably step into pull-up threes. I thought that was embarrassing tonight. Oklahoma City can't let that happen. Like that's the thing with great players. You're never going to be able to fully shut out a guy from getting to his spots. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is one of those guys. So what did Minnesota do as an adjustment? They made it difficult for him to get these shots, and they made it difficult when he was attempting them. Anthony Edwards practices pull-up threes all day long. And so when, Carson, you said it earlier, it's like he's shooting a warm-up J. For a guy
Mm-hmm.
like Anthony Edwards, it is. And so you got to make life hard on him, and I'm selling out on him. I am not fearful of Gobert. I am just going to rotate over and trust my help side guys to make the play on him or make him uncomfortable. Or you know what? Let him make him make us pay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to play the same. I'm going to play a similar modified coverage, I think, on Randle. Not as drastic because he's better, but I'm picking on the non-shooters in the lineup that they're playing, and I'm selling out on Ant, man. That's my big adjustment defensively. And more importantly, OKC's just got to bring the energy, man. I don't think they had it tonight whatsoever. They got to come out with more energy, too. But that's what I do. I'm selling out on Ant.
I think what you said is pretty interesting about putting a smaller player on Gobert and switching everything because the drop doesn't work. Now, if they're going to continue to have a big guarding Gobert, then what I would do is, as I said earlier, blitz or play up at the level, force Rudy to make a play off the roll, force Ant to make a skip pass. But I would be very intrigued if Mark Daigneault were willing to make kind of a radical change and start Alex Caruso over Isaiah Hartenstein. And I don't know if you can put Caruso on Gobert just because there's such an
What
advantage
if
on the
you
glass.
did
I think
a
what you do is you put Caruso on Randle and you say, all right, we're making life hell for you to get the ball the entire game. And then you put J-Dub on Gobert, and then you're switching everything because the double big looks just haven't been very effective for OKC in these playoffs. I mean, they were great in the regular season, and we get a couple of sexual Chet iHeart pick and rolls in this game. Those are probably the two best moments of the game for OKC. But if you just look at the numbers, man, the offense has not been the same. It's easier for teams to load up on Shai because there's less shooting out there to punish them. Chet is better offensively at the 5 when he's getting all the touches around the rim, and he doesn't have to be like a full-time perimeter player, but obviously he can make his impact there as well. When Chet has been on the floor without iHeart in the playoffs, they're a plus 22 net team. When iHeart is on the floor without Chet, they're a plus 18 net team. When they are out there together, they're a negative 0.1 net team, and they've been a neutral basketball team with the double big.
It's redundant.
Yeah, it just hasn't been as effective. Like I said, it's not as good for them offensively. It's honestly not as good defensively. It's still great, but I think that the speed that they have with the lone big lineups are even more disruptive.
If you do that, are they going to be able to battle on the glass?
Well, that's the trade-off that you potentially are conceding, and we'll see. But I think that if you have J-Dub fighting like hell with Rudy on the glass, I mean, it's always going to be an effort to gang rebound. You're going to have Chet obviously roaming off of Jaden McDaniels, and he'll be getting in there on the glass. I think it's worth a shot. And I understand if maybe that sounds crazy to say, okay, we're going to try Caruso on Randle, we're going to try J-Dub on Rudy. I would not underestimate the ability of those guys to make life hell on bigger players, to be super physical, to be so insanely active with their hands. We've seen it so many times before how special this OKC team can be going small. I think it's an interesting counter to take away some of the easiest offense that Ant is getting. And I think that at the end of the day, it just gets the best lineup out there probably for OKC. I do really like Hartenstein. I think he's very valuable, but I think that Caruso is probably the better option to be starting with. And I just think the looks with Chet at the 5 have been the best for them. And we'll still get plenty of Hartenstein, just not so much out there with Chet. So that's an adjustment I'd be interested in seeing. But regardless, I think even more aggressive on Ant. I think even more aggressive on Julius Randle. I thought that they let him play a little too much in single coverage in this game. And I get it because in game 2, they were able to play him well. But again, that was more like fronting, denying him straight up. Randle was also just more in control in this game, right? They weren't forcing the turnovers. They weren't drawing the offensive fouls. And when he has a Case and Wallace on him, man, like I love Case, but that has to be a double team. Like there's a couple spots where you just have to double and then force him to make the read as a passer. And he can make it. And the guys around him were making the shots, but at least you don't let him just like get all the way downhill in a very, very favorable matchup. And then offensively, SGA really does have to get the pull-up 3 going. And if Rudy is going to continue to play higher, well, first of all, I think that there were a couple mid-range looks that Shai could have taken that he passed up on that he needs to take because he's just so phenomenal there. But also, he's got to be able to hit you with that second gear shift and get all the way downhill. We've seen him do it a couple times against Rudy, but if he's going to play out a little more in space with you, you've got to weaponize your quickness advantage. And then, I mean, Shai's just such a special finisher that if he gets any sort of angle with his length, with the English he puts on the ball, I believe in his ability to finish at the rim. OKC absolutely has to take care of the basketball. They've been the best at that in the playoffs. They've been the best at that all year. This was a game where they were not prepared for the level of physicality and energy and pressure that Minnesota brought. They have to be going forward, and they have to meet them there, if not exceed them. I mean, that's what OKC does normally, and they were just totally outclassed in that department. So there are definitely a number of things that OKC has to improve upon from this game. I do think at the end of the day, like Minnesota was perfect today. And yes, they made some good adjustments. They also just executed perfectly on both sides of the ball and shooting as well as they did. And Ant and Randle, not just getting the shots you like, but also making 70% of the shots they're getting to. Like, you dominated 2 out of 3 games. If you're OKC, you'll be fine if you just clean up a few of these things. You shoot the ball better. That's the thing. They have to shoot better from deep for sure. And that's the one question that you have about this team. But I think they'll be able to set a much more effective tone defensively themselves. I do think they'll reverse a lot of this transition and turnover stuff because in 99% of games, they win those margins convincingly. And Minnesota got them in this one, in those margins. They deserve credit for that, but I just don't view that as sustainable necessarily.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And for Minnesota, I just wanted to add finally on the offense. We've been talking about them a lot, but I thought the ball movement was really fantastic in this game. And they did a really good job of spreading Oklahoma City out, which you were talking about with Randle, him isolating a lot. I just thought Minnesota did a better job with just their general spacing on the court, like making sure that they couldn't pack as much. Now, Oklahoma City's going to do that, but when they did do that also, they shot well. Oklahoma City, I think SGA's got to be better.
Absolutely.
I think Dub has to be better too. Dub was efficient, but they both turned the ball over a lot in this game.
Yep.
Were flustered.
8 turnovers between the two of them.
Chet hasn't shot well. Like, just offensively, they just looked. This is a completely off night from Oklahoma City, which, you know, I don't think you can ever fully rule out with a defense this great in Minnesota and a team this young that we know their flaws. But I do expect Oklahoma City to bounce back. Basketball, in a lot of ways, man, during a series is a pendulum. And we saw it swing back in Minnesota's favor with their adjustments. And I'm not ruling out that, again, I think Minnesota could win a game or another one. These teams are. Minnesota is very talented. Like, we know the best punch that Minnesota can throw every night.
And by the way, this was the best punch they've thrown all playoffs and probably the best punch anybody has thrown all playoffs. I thought the first half was the most dominant half we've seen from anybody, period. And to do it against OKC is another level of impressive.
Yeah, but I completely agree with that. I just think that Oklahoma City is going to bounce back. I think they're going to shoot better, and I expect them to win defensively. Again, they didn't win it all defensively tonight. That is the biggest component to this team winning basketball games, and I do expect them to just be better on that end. But Minnesota's great. I don't want to undersell that. Minnesota's a great team.
Definitely. I would like to see more Caruso. Like I said, man, I really, really would like to see more of them going with the lone big looks and then being more switchable, being faster out on the perimeter and see how well they can hang on the glass. But I mean, they were getting crushed on the glass anyways today, even with playing more of the double big stuff. Also, I think that maybe more Kenrich Williams. I know that like it's not something I would have thought coming into this series, but with the job that he did on Julius Randle in game 2, like I think that that's interesting. Or no, that was game 1 when Kenrich Williams came in and gave you some good minutes. And he's been shooting the ball pretty well, so that could be interesting. And then, you know, we've been getting more Isaiah Joe. It's tough when he goes 0 of 5 from 3, man. That's what he's out there to do. He's out there to make outside shots, and he couldn't make a single one of them. So I like Daigneault going with him to start the second half just to see, you know, what sort of 3-point shooting volume and juice can we get. But he was not able to deliver it. And if he doesn't, he really shouldn't see the floor just because he's the weakest defender in the OKC rotation. But I expect everybody to play better for them. I expect them to shoot better. That's the one thing that I'm not as confident in. That's the one thing that could get them, but I think they'll defend much better. I think that they'll make some of these key adjustments, and I think that they'll come back with a much better effort in game 4. And if I had to pick, I would take the Thunder to win game 4. This is exactly the game that Minnesota had to get in this series. You're back on your home court. You're down 2-0, and boy, did they get it emphatically. I do still think OKC is the better team. We have one super chat from Indy Merchant Sam. Nas Reed. Logan?
Nas Reed.
Nas Reed.
That's
very
what
nice game from Nas Reed tonight.
That's what I've been saying, man.
Very nice game from Nas Reed tonight. Very, very impressive game from the Minnesota Timberwolves. We will be back, of course, talking about this game when we have game 4 on Monday. But before that, Logan, we got Pacers-Knicks to talk about tomorrow. I also believe that I'm going to have a video about the Pacers offense and why the Knicks just cannot guard them tomorrow. I'm going to probably grind on that and get that one done for you guys. So you can stay tuned in for that on our YouTube channel, where, of course, you also can find all of our full episodes, all of our post-game live streams. We are here every single night. We don't have a choice. We are chained to our radiators, and we have to record podcasts and watch a lot of basketball. You can also listen to all the episodes across all audio platforms, and you can follow us across social, Instagram at NerdSesh, Twitter at Nerd_Sesh, and TikTok also at NerdSesh, of course. And you can join our Discord if you want. The link to that is at the link tree across our social media bios. So with that, as always, I've been Carson Brabber.
I have been Logan Camden.
And this was NerdSesh.